And so everybody, as a fan, looks at Taylor Swift as their sister, their cool aunt, their best friend. They feel that. Now, that's not true. The core of the brand has been built on the intimacy of the person, and she's lost that now with scale, because now most of her communications on her social channels are buy this thing, look at this thing, buy this thing, watch this thing. When she was younger, she would let you inside her family, her breakups, her mind. And that authenticity is very, very difficult to fake. And the idea that if a man, as a male entrepreneur, if you are doing things, keeping track of everything and reacting, you're called strategic. And if women do it, they're called manipulative. She sold more albums in that opening week than anyone has ever had before. She tore away the line between producer and consumer. Like, do people have Taylor Swift tattoos? Oh yeah, oh they do. I'm a little bit made up of everything. I'm a little anthropologist, sociologist, psychologist, cyber behavioralist, curious, creative, open-minded, and passionate about connection.
How would you like strangers to remember you?
A little bit crazy and weird.
Hello, fellows. Welcome to the next episode of Jagged with Jasravi. Subscribe to my channel for conversations at the edge with thought leaders from the branding, marketing, and the business world. Conversations that ignite new ideas, ideas with rough and sharp edges. Hello, Ken. Great to have you on my show.
Thank you very much. Delighted to be here.
All the way from Ireland.
Yes, home of the magical storytellers. Storytelling is in the blood of the Irish.
Wow, the Irish should be in great demand.
We are. We are. We are already.
I didn't mean Ken.
Well, I am anyway. But yeah, let's get into it.
Do tell us a bit about Ireland also as we go along. First of all, we see that book Taylormaking. It is a unique topic, but very, very relevant, compelling, palpable themes. How did you decide to write a book about how Taylor has become, such a huge brand and what brands can learn from her?
Firstly, I'm a behavioral scientist. That's my background. So I'm fascinated by the psychology of the human mind, how we make decisions. And most of my career has been with large corporate brands, global brands, about how they can better connect with their customer, build tribal followings of their own, understand the new consumer, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and all that work. And so that work has always brought me into various fields: anthropology, psychology, sociology. And so when I was watching the Eras tour about 2 years ago, when she started selling tickets for this tour, and the tickets were it was like the Hunger Games trying to get a ticket. It was chaos, and only about 4% of people in the world who wanted tickets ever got tickets, which left 96% outside the stadium. And then you watch 20,000, 30,000 people outside the stadium, all coming together, singing for 3.5 hours. Just because they couldn't be inside wasn't going to stop them coming together as a community. The anthropologist in me became very, very interested in ritual. So we use ritual and the study of ritual in anthropology to understand people. So if you go back hundreds of years, and if you want to understand a tribe in the Amazon, you could live with them for a month, but actually just experiencing 1 or 2 days of ritual with them, you will deepen your understanding hugely. And so I became really interested in why Taylor Swift had become so successful, because really, all the other artists in the pop industry, whether you're Madonna or Beyonce or Rihanna or Sabrina Carpenter, there are hundreds of talented, amazingly good singers and entertainers, and they all have the same access to the same producers and directors and songwriters. So why her? And so I started researching her over her 20-year career, and I realized that she focused on the customer all the time. So while her music is amazing and her videos are amazing, and she's a very talented songwriter and musician and entertainer and all those things also, but she invested in the customer experience from the very beginning. When she was 15, sitting in her bedroom, she understood that half your time you could spend writing the material, but the other half your time you had to spend on MySpace and Bebo and Tumblr, talking to fans and letting them see your world and letting them see behind the curtain. And she continued that for 10 or 15 years, every night, every week, always inviting the fan back into her world. or she would step into their world and turn up at their houses as a surprise, and all the friendship bracelets and the rituals and the gamification and the Easter eggs, and it was all a game, it was all a community, it was all family. And so if you look at the Swifty army and the Swifty tribe that she has, it's one of the biggest tribal fandoms we have in branding today. And they don't buy product, they belong. And there's a huge difference when you're a brand, if you're selling products and service, or when you're forming belonging. And as humans, of course, we yearn to belong. We belong to family, we belong to like romantic partnership, we belong to friends, even to your gym, your college. You seek belonging. It's their core need, and she taps into that. And any brand that taps into that does well because you formulate a community. So the Nike Running Club, and the Peloton, they don't sell bikes, they sell tribe, they sell community. Red Bull, another great one, like they sell danger and adrenaline and adventure. They don't sell soda. And so Taylor Swift doesn't sell music. She sells belonging. She sells story. She sells community. She sells collaboration. She sells co-creation, all those things. And so the book really is an exploration of how a brand can become a global brand, global icon, but yet hold on to the authenticity, the realness that people really value. And so everybody, as a fan, looks at Taylor Swift as their sister, their cool aunt, their best friend. They feel that. Now, that's not true. None of them, 99.9999% have never met her, but they feel the connection. And as brands, that's what we need to do. We need to build our brands beyond product into the community tribal space. So I sat down to write a book. I really enjoyed writing the book. Actually, the book, I fell down the well. I'm now a fully fledged Swiftie. And so when I open my Instagram, it's all Taylor, Taylor, Taylor. But yeah, I learned a lot from the book, and the book is written in a very fun, easy, accessible way. It's got playlists. It's got a website that accompanies it with lots of video of cases. And so for everybody who works in marketing or branding or a student of marketing, it's a really good access point to how today in our modern economy, you have to build a brand that goes beyond product.
Did you convert to be a Swiftie after writing the book?
Good question. At what point? At what point did I become a Swiftie? I think probably quite quickly. I think I was researching the book. It took me 2 years to write the book. And so I was coming and going from the research all the time. I think I would probably after 6 months, yeah, have become, because honestly, if you watch all the video and if you watch all our interviews and you do all the interviews and you meet all the Swifties, it's a little bit like a cult. You get sucked in really fast, and you do feel part of the community. It's interesting. I remember going to the Eras tour opened in America first, and then she launched the movie in between the US and the European tour, or the rest of world tour. And so we saw the movie here in Europe, and I'm sure the same in India, around just before the rest of the world tour. And I went on opening night because, again, as an anthropologist, I'm really interested in immersion. So I want to be immersed here. I want to see the joy. I want to see the excitement. I want to see the community and feel it. You have to, when you research something, you can't just read about it. You have to be inside it. And so I went along to the movie theater on the opening night. It was a bit weird because I was the only man in the foyer. All these 14, well, I was going to say all these 14-year-old girls, but that's actually not true because the wonderful thing about her consumer base is that she has longevity in an industry that doesn't really have that longevity. Most pop artists come, they have 5 or 6 years of success, then they crash. They might come back later for nostalgia, but she's had 20 years of continuous building. And so actually in the foyer of the theater, you do see lots of 14, 15-year-old girls, lots of 10-year-old girls, but you also see lots of 25-year-old women, 35-year-old women. You see mothers, you see grandmothers, you see daughters. It's a whole community generational thing. But anyway, I was in the theater watching, and I was sitting next to I'd say probably 25, 26-year-old women. And I'm just there observing, and before I know it, I'm getting friendship bracelets. I'm being, and of course I foolishly told them why I was there writing a book. Oh my God! And so they give me all their stories, and yeah, I think I left with about 20 friendship bracelets on my arm, and you feel like you feel like you're a rescue kitten or a rescue puppy that has been taken in by the family. They adopt you very quickly. They're passionate about their community, their product, and they just believe. And there's a religiosity to it, nearly. There's a religious feel to it, which again you see often in tribal belonging. You see that in sporting events, in soccer, in cricket. People believe in their team, and so it's a really really interesting feeling when
So,
you see the
so
power of community.
yeah. So there are so many segues that I can take, and I'm going to take each and every of them one by one. It's good that
Go.
I'm not a Swiftie. Yeah, I'm not a
Huh?
Swiftie yet, but
Yet.
I'm extremely curious, and who knows, by the end of the podcast, I might be a convert. So, it's all on you, Ken.
It's
So
all okay.
pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I get this that she is a cult brand, just like a Harley Davidson, just like all those brands that, create. And for young people who are in the need for a belonging because
Yes.
they're on a quest to find their identity and they're willing to challenge, they have the, fresh lens to challenge what's really going on in the culture. What kind of belonging is this? What is her essence? Because like you said, what kind of a brand is she? Yes, she is evoking strong emotions. Yes, there is genuine connection. There is affinity. Yes. What kind of a universal emotion she is inspiring that is appealing across generations? Like you said, that's so rare, and especially for music. The youth always taps into the music that's on the edge. They don't
Yeah.
want to be mainstream, they want to be what's emerging.
I think it's a good question because in music, you're right. There's been movements before that are like punk, and people attach themselves to them because they want to be different. Certainly in the teenage years, you seek identity often in the different space as opposed to the same space. You're trying to project self-identity. I think in Taylor Swift, and one of the critiques of the people who aren't Swifties would be, oh, it's very mediocre music. It's the middle of the road, and people don't understand the popularity then because it's the same as everyone else's music. I think the answer to your question is quite simple in terms of brand values. The reason that I think people identify with her particularly and her brand is two things: authenticity and vulnerability. And they're very powerful brand values today. And really for Gen Alpha and Gen Z, they're core to why they would ever invite a brand into their lives. And I do like that expression. When we buy something today, we invite a brand into our lives. So it's a choice we make. Like, do I want this brand to be part of my life? Or do I want to give my money, my time, my effort to this brand? So it's a relationship. And in that space, then, I think the authenticity of Taylor Swift is quite interesting. So she has never kind of faked who she is. And so if we look at the pop stars of the 80s and 90s, it was all about fame and glitz and glamour. And I'm not saying she's not those things, because she is all those things as well. She's a beautiful woman and she's a fashion icon, but she's herself throughout it. And so she will make videos of herself learning the dance in the video. And she'll show all the behind the scenes footage of all getting it wrong and how stupid she is and falling over. And because that's the human side of it. And she'll show you videos of her writing the songs in the studio, like the actual process of writing. Because most people will never show you the production process. They'll show you the finished product. And we do that too in regular branding. But she shows you how the product came about, how the video was made, how the song was written. And even before, and she doesn't do so much of it anymore because she's so famous and doesn't want to spend all her time on social media. But when she was younger, she would let you inside her family, her breakups, her mind. And that authenticity is very, very difficult to fake because that's what people connect with. It's real. And so that's why people think, well, Taylor Swift is just my best friend. She's someone, and this is the really important part, she's someone just like me. And so that you can't say that about Rihanna, and you can't say that about Lady Gaga and Madonna, because they're not just like you, or Kim Kardashian, or pick your famous person. It doesn't matter. But for Taylor Swift, everyone thinks, yeah, she's just like me. And she talks just like me. And now she's a multi-billionaire. She's not like you, but the illusion is, wow, just like me. And then the vulnerability part. So those two things, the authenticity and the vulnerability, they kind of feed off each other. And so even the choice of what she's written about over her years, about breakup and relationship, things that people can identify with, people that understand, okay, yeah, that's me too, wow. And the way she writes her songs and that she can put her finger right on an emotion and people feel it. And then, yeah, and in the last 2 years, we've gone from kind of people liking Taylor Swift to having her as a unicorn of the pop industry. She is the music industry now. So how have we got there? Like, why in the last 3 years did it go from, superstar to super stellar? And really, what happened there was the collective. So there was just this sudden hype and the Eras tour, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we saw 40,000 people outside stadiums, and then the social media piece fed that then, because then we saw a collective consciousness of consumption. And people thought, wow, something is happening. I want to be part. I want to be part of the something that is happening. And so there was a huge new recruitment drive, a whole new order of consumers. And then her re-releasing her albums, of course, brought old product to new consumers. So there's a whole new set of 10-year-old girls and 12-year-old girls whose mothers may have been Swifties and are now Swifties. And that's just really interesting as she challenges, as she as an entrepreneur, of course, is extremely savvy. And so she challenged the music industry. She challenged how it works. She challenged how it could be done. She challenged distribution models. And we can all learn from that also, because we sit distributing our products in the same way we have for the last 10, 15 years. But Taylor Swift thinks, well, no, there's a better way of doing it. Like, so when she released that movie of the Eras Tour, she didn't hire a Hollywood movie studio to make the movie, like most people do. She didn't hire a distributor to distribute the movie. No, she sold it direct to cinemas, which is one of the first times a movie of that size was ever sold direct to cinemas. So she cut out the studio, she cut out the distributor, and gave the cinema more money, and she took more money. So from a profit point of view, it makes sense, but also from a control point of view, it controlled the speed to market, it controlled the product, and she does that again and again and again. So she will look at a distribution network and she will say, hang on, does this suit me as a brand? No, I'm going direct to consumer. She sells her merch direct to consumer. She sold most of her vinyl on this new album that she released direct to consumer. Why would you give money to somebody else? And so it's a really interesting blend of, as a person, she's such a smart, savvy entrepreneur, but being able to hold on to those values around authenticity and vulnerability as you get super famous is actually very difficult. And it's very interesting how Taylor Swift has gone from being a now super stellar brand with global reach, but actually still maintained the connection with the customer. And the connection is everything.
So every great brand is not just selling the product, there is an intangible. In fact, like we say, the brand is the intangible, and brand is associations in the consumer's head and heart. I cannot help but be in awe of the fact that she knows, she is so self-aware, where is the consistency to be and where the evolution has to happen, because societies are evolving, and most brands, this is their key challenge, how, if they are aspirational as well as identifiable, which she clearly is, how do we maintain the two? Because if the aspiration is a little bit more, it's alienating, which can be in case of other pop stars that you named. And if identification is too much, then it gets too familiar, which also becomes a problem in the long run. How much she's aware of what she stands for, and how she is, like you said, the D2C aspect. Nothing is going to come in between me and my consumer, if I could say that, my fans. It's very clear that she has a pulse. She has a finger on the pulse of the consumer. She's in touch with them. So she has real consumer insights. And of course, she is an authentic and, brave, courageous woman, because she allows herself to be vulnerable. Except every time she's been criticized, she's never defensive. She's never, even from the very beginning, she was very clear that this is what I'm going to do. This is the area that I'm going to play in. This is what I'm about. So how is she keeping the core consistent and evolving? And where is she evolving? Yeah.
I think her magnificence partly comes from just her X factor feeling for connection. I think sometimes you can't fake that. You can't fake connection. And so she wants to connect with the fan. She does value her customer hugely. And it doesn't matter who you are. And she's super inclusive too, which is another really important value for modern branding. brands that are inclusive. She's super inclusive of whoever you are, whatever age you are, whatever gender you are, whatever sexual orientation you are. She has a passion, I think, for connection ultimately. And she's found her connection through songwriting and through music. But then she's also an amazing director. So if you look at any of her recent videos in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, that she, of course, directs herself because she has that insight to wanting how everything looks. You can see that she has an artistic eye, and so her songwriting and her direction and her producing is all around a magnificent product. So she is a genius in that sense in terms of the product, right? You don't have to like it. You know, everyone's tastes are different. That's okay. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, "Oh my God, I hate Taylor Swift's music," that's okay. You don't, she's not writing it for everybody. But you can't watch her videos, for instance, and not think, "Wow, that is visually so impactful." And so I think she's very good at this. Kind of leans into, I guess, employee experience. She is very conscious of surrounding herself with excellent people. So back to your point about, being having your finger on the pulse, knowing what's happening, knowing what people are feeling, what people are saying. She has significant teams doing that for her, making sure that she does know what's happening and what people are saying, and how her brand comes across. Her publicist is amazing. And so any slip up or anything that's gathering pace online will be dealt with by her publicist extremely fast, managing that brand. And it's very interesting because she's a very famous speech about men and women, and the idea that if a man, as a male entrepreneur, if you are doing things and keeping track of everything and reacting, you're called strategic, and if women do it, they're called manipulative. And she really has a problem with this because she's often called manipulative. She's manipulating the market. She's manipulating. No, she's just being very strategic. She's looking at the data. She's looking at what's happening. And I don't think she's ever sat down to write an album based on what the data wants. No, no, that comes from the heart. But how you deal with the industry and how the industry can be challenged. Like her latest album drop. So it is now the life of a showgirl is the fastest selling album of all time, like of all time. It's bigger than any other album. Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Jackson, whoever. She sold more albums in that opening week than anyone has ever had before. She had the top 12 positions of the top Billboard 200 chart for her songs, never done before. And so she breaks her own records now at this stage. So she's a machine. How did she do that? She understood anticipation. She understood the power of social media. She also understood the new power of the podcast. And so, she announced her new album drop on a podcast. She didn't do it on a radio station, didn't do it on a TV station, didn't do it even on social media, which would have been the older. She now knows the authentic, personal nature of the podcast. And of course, she used her fiance's podcast to do it, and the power. So that was, that 1 hour podcast was watched by hundreds of millions of people globally. And it gave the audience access again to the authentic, to the real, to the genuine Taylor. They watched Travis and Taylor have like a couple chats live on this podcast. It was the best thing ever for Swifties. And so again, it's about using new channels, using new technology, using new ways of doing things, and keeping the gamification going. Now, if I was to have any criticism about her, and I do also, like, just because you're a big brand doesn't mean you're perfect. If you look back at the intimacy that she used to create by letting people inside her world and letting them see her life behind the scenes, that was all real, amazing, close, intimate spaces, and it was beautiful. She doesn't do that anymore because you know what? She got burnt by it. Because if you let people in too much, there's too much conversation, and so she keeps her life private now. She lets little bits every now and then. Here's the engagement shoot with me and Travis. That's fine, but she's not going to let you into her apartment in her house with Travis and me watching TV. She used to do that, but she doesn't anymore. And what's sad about that is if you open her own Instagram, or if you open her Taylor Nation, her fan account, and you swipe along the tiles now, what you really see is product, 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 product. So you'll see vinyl, you'll see video, you'll see Eras Tour, but you don't see Taylor anymore so much. So what she's done is she's failed, I suppose, really to keep what we were talking about earlier on. The core of the brand has been built on the intimacy of the person. And she's lost that now with scale because now most of her communications on her social channels are buy this thing, look at this thing, buy this thing, watch this thing, as opposed to what the fans want is show me Taylor. I want to see Taylor. And so, finding that balance is difficult. But then you could say that to her, and she will turn to you and say, I did that for 20 years and I am exhausted and I just want my own life.
Yeah.
The personal branding, what's really interesting about fame is that there are two people inside of you. There is you, the brand. So there's Taylor Swift, the brand, and that brand stands on stages and is on radio and TV and is performing for the audience. And then, of course, there's you, the person, right? And now, if you've been famous for 20 years, the line between those two people gets a bit confusing sometimes, and you feel that you're always on. So, for instance, when she leaves every restaurant, every cafe, every home she owns, the moment she puts out her face into public space, she has to be on. She has to be, and if she makes one bad facial expression, one bad comment, it's all over social media. So that is exhausting, and I'm yet to meet. In my line of work, I thankfully get to share lots of stages all over the world speaking, and I meet some amazingly talented people, whether they're entertainers, musicians, politicians, sports people, athletes, super famous people, and they're all exhausted. And I'm yet to meet anyone famous who enjoys fame. They enjoy it for maybe the first year because it's exciting and the champagne and the cars and the ego. After that, they all hate it
Yeah.
because it's a diamond prison.
Parallel that's coming in my mind is an Indian artist who's become a global icon now. If you've heard of him, Diljit Dosanjh, he's going on the world tour and clearly saying, I don't know English, and he will speak his own language. He'll wear his own garb. So, he is stretched the authenticity to not just the identity, but to the image, not just to the songs, but how he shows up in the world, because he's like, that's where I come from, and that's what's my gift to the world. What connects with people most is his purity as an artist. It's the purity, fresh vocabulary, fresh ways to look at the world, relationships, emotions, etc. And fame can be so toxic because it makes you self-conscious. Now, going back to Taylor, you were talking about how strong an emotion she inspires. When we say Taylor Swift, what is the emotion that comes to people's mind? Because somewhere I feel is that's also a need of the times, like vulnerability and authenticity have become the things that are, very, very prized in this fake world. Yes.
Yes. I mean, to answer the first question, what is the emotion? I think it's actually quite simple. I think if you stand in a movie theater or in a Swiftie collective, doesn't matter where. The best one is obviously, at the Eras tour, at the live concert. The overwhelming emotion in the stadium is joy. It's that simple, right? And it doesn't need Taylor even present for that joy to be felt. So outside the stadium, for the 2 or 3 hours queuing to get in, you have all the friendship bracelet sharing. You have all the costumes, because they all, of course, come in costumes. Each costume has been designed for 3 months by the wearer. They've sequenced it, they've made it, they've bought it, they've planned it. They have matching costumes with their friends, or they have, I'm from this era, I'm from this album, and it's all planned. And so there's a whole collective and there's a whole sharing about, oh my God, you came as this, strangers bonding, friendships being formed around community and collaboration. So it's all joy. That's the underlying emotion, is the joy. What she basically did is tear away the line, and this is really important for anyone listening as a marketeer. She tore away the line between producer and consumer. There's no line, there's no separation. There's no, and that's genius, where you don't know where the brand stops and where the consumer begins. It's like an infinity loop and so the best example I had of this about stepping out of the wheel was the Vienna concert. So in Europe, in her Eras tour, when she got to Vienna, she had three nights in Vienna in Austria, and the Interpol police came across a terrorist plot that was planned to attack her concert. And it was a very real plot. And the police investigated quickly, and they found two suspects. And they raided their homes, and they found the weapons, they found the bombs, they found evidence that they were going to hit the next night. And in that moment, the promoter of the concert in Vienna and Taylor Swift had to make a decision. Now, are we certain that the plot has been found and that these two men are the only two men? Or is there a potential maybe for the other terrorists? Maybe there's three of them, maybe there's five of them. We don't know. So what do we do? Do we cancel the concerts or not? And this is all happening on Thursday. The concert is happening on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this is all happening on the Thursday. And it's a multi-million dollar decision, of course, to cancel an event this size. And you need to remember that there's so many people from Asia and from America who hadn't got tickets to their own concerts, had bought European tickets. So there's now 120,000 Swifties in Vienna. And some of them have traveled halfway across the world to be there for these concerts. Imagine, imagine the courage you have to cancel the concert. And so the decision eventually rested on Taylor Swift's desk and probably her management and the Interpol, and they had a conversation. There was a meeting, and they decided, okay, nothing, the joy is amazing, and all the people have traveled, but nothing is more important than safety. And so we cancel. So they canceled all the concerts. Now, they did that because they didn't want, 70,000 people all in one space. And if there was one or two terrorists still there, that was going to be dangerous and end up in loss of life. What happened, of course, the next day, there was lots of tears. There was 120,000 people crying. And this was the most biggest thing that was going to happen in their year, And they took to the streets and they had their own Taylor Swift party. So the concert was cancelled and they all gathered on the streets of Vienna that evening. And to watch 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 people all in the one place singing for hours the songs together, holding hands. And that was the moment I realized, oh my God, like Taylor Swift has removed the product. She's taken away the product, and the fan, the customer, have created their own product. They created their own private sing-along concert in community, in collaboration, in grief, really. And that was the moment you realize, oh my God, the wheel is turning and Taylor has taken herself away. So now at this stage, if Taylor has taken the product away, then what is the product? Like if you can remove Taylor and the product is still Taylor, then she's not even the brand anymore. She has transcended branding to understanding that the Swifties, the collective, is the brand. That is what the brand is. The brand is joy. The brand is community. The brand is shared story, belonging. And in grief of that moment, the brand is about togetherness, resilience, all amazing values that are fantastic role model values for our youth. And she stands behind them all as a brand. And she didn't even have to be there. And if any brand wants a lesson in where you should be aiming for, as in marketing terms, that's it. Where you can not even, your brand doesn't even produce the product, and yet the community that you've built around your brand values stands so strong that they can do it without you. So that's the moment. So it's about joy and belonging and togetherness, and it's certainly about standing for values that people respect.
I felt that maybe, when the community was, in tears and celebrating when the concert got cancelled, maybe there was also an appreciation for the fact that she did the right thing. And, she kind of lifted herself. She went beyond, like you said, she went beyond the immediate profit. And that is, again, symbolic of the values, emotion, experience, and feel bonded by it. That a rock star can do. But this, standing for certain values, that is what is lifting her brand, like you said, elevating her brand.
Yeah. And you mentioned it earlier on too, it's about consistency. So for most brands, you don't just arrive here. You don't just, design the brand strategy and 1 year later have this massive global tribe. No. This takes consistency over years and years. And I think another great example, which I used earlier on, is Red Bull. Red Bull is a carbonated soft energy drink. That's it. It's a drink in a can. But it's not that for the people who live the life of Red Bull. I was skiing a few years ago with my teenage children, and we sat down at lunch at a cafe, and we took our gear off, and this 25-year-old guy joined us at the table. You know the type, the kind of snowboarder, super cool guy. He took his helmet off, and he had these big dreads, and And he had a Red Bull tattoo across his neck, like a huge Red Bull tattoo on his neck. And I looked at him and I thought, wow, like he's put a commercial brand logo on his skin. First of all, he sat for hours in a tattoo chair getting this, like the literal definition of branding. Like he branded himself with this brand. And you have to ask why. Like, why did he put a commercial brand on his skin for eternity, for all time? And why did he put it somewhere here? Like, why isn't it on his shoulder or his back? It's here for everybody to see. Because what it means to him, he is branding and communicating, back to your point earlier about self identity. What he is saying to you is, this is my tribe. I am danger. I am adventure. I am adrenaline. I am at the edge. I live on the edge of everything. And I choose to be on the edge. And if you're going to talk to me, you need to know that about me. And that's he's chosen a brand to communicate all that. A brand of soft drinks. Now you ask yourself, how did Red Bull get there? They did it by consistently sponsoring events at the edge, consistently seeking out people who lived their lives that way, aligning themselves with with base jumping, with free diving, with all these crazy sports. Excuse me. And so, you do it by leaning into your brand values. They didn't sponsor safe sports. They didn't sponsor safe people. They didn't want to invite regular people into their tribe. They only want the misfits, the crazy people. And if you're one of those people, then and again, that idea of branding yourself, like, do people have Taylor Swift tattoos? Oh yeah, oh they do. They have lyrics, they have album covers, they have, and so the idea that you permanently mark the only body that you have with a commercial brand is the ultimate test of belonging. And so, yeah, that's it. It's about emotion, and back to the point about brand affinity and brand heart and brand soul. It's all those things in the intimate moment.
Harley Davidson, all these brands, they do that. There are these few brands who pick up a value that's not mainstream and yet missed. And people want to feel validated about feeling that way. It gives them a legit way to put it on their shoulders and on their sleeves. There's one thing that you also mentioned about intimacy and
Mm,
how that is not the priority because of the constraint of what an artist goes through after 20 years of fame, and of course the adverse effects, and how social media has become like a scary place.
mm,
So what can she do to ensure that her raw jagged edge, as I call it,
mm.
stays
Is
out there?
seen. Yeah, I think there's a balance for her. I mean, this is a very personal thing for her. So if I was on her brand team, I can imagine the meeting. I can imagine me on one side of the table saying, look, your brand was built on intimacy. We feel we're losing some of it, and we want you to be more, open and see more of your lives. And I can see her answering back saying, look, yeah, I hear that, but I'm not in that place anymore. And that's okay. I think the definition of intimacy, I'm a customer experience strategist also. And so I help brands all over the world with their customer experience connections with their customers. And an experience is an interesting thing because an experience can actually be two-dimensional and it can be quite short term also. And I always think about it in dating terms. So if you're dating someone and you have a one night stand, that's an experience. It's a once off experience. There it is. And you could have another one tomorrow and another one tomorrow and another one tomorrow. And look, great. You're living your best life. But eventually you'll miss the depth of connection. If you keep changing partners every weekend, or you'll eventually lose what you're really seeking for as a human, which is depth of connection. Now, intimacy. So I've started using the word customer intimacy instead of customer experience, because intimacy is defined as a sense of closeness, developing a sense of closeness with somebody. And so in dating terms, we know what that means. Intimacy, it means mental intimacy, spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, all the intimacies. And that's more of a target for a brand. Are we developing, are we fostering a sense of closeness with our customers? And the more we do that, the more we then develop brand loyalty. People think brand loyalty is this frequency thing. Buy 9 cups of coffee, get a 10th coffee free. No, no, no. Loyalty is an emotive, psychological state with oxytocin being released from bonding, with serotonin, with dopamine as well. And so customer intimacy is the target here. How can we create moments that matter, moments that say to you as a customer, I see you, I hear you, I value you, and I want to help you. And that's what modern branding is all about. And again, going back to our friend Taylor Swift, she does it well. She reaches into the lives of her fans. She has, done many things over the years. She's paid off their student loans. She's turned up at their weddings. She does all sorts of things to show that she cares.
So starting from the songs she's writing and the experience people have, starting from there, the intimacy is getting built to, her going out of the way for when they need and cannot even imagine, and she shows up for them. Community, is another thing that has become so important. And you were talking about consumer experience. All this is so important in the healthcare space, most so now, because respect for doctors also going down, doctors becoming just one of the influencing factors, peer reviews, testimonials, and it's so difficult to have an engaged community. Are there any truths here that brands can learn from? Because every brand wants that.
I mean, it certainly leads out with experience. You don't lead out with product. That's the mistake most brands make. They lead out with product. Look at my new product. Look at my new thing. Whereas actually, it's all about experience, of course. It's all about how you make the customer feel. That's how you build community. And let's pick up your healthcare point, because healthcare is difficult. You have an exhausted workforce. You have an extremely vulnerable customer, and so it's important to get it right. I think what's important to know is that the experience and how you make people feel really defines the success of the product for a patient. So I remember hearing a story from a nurse who had a very elderly gentleman in the hospital. He was maybe 75, 80. He was nervous about his surgery, and she could see he was a little bit nervous. Now, she's very busy. Nursing staff are extremely busy. They don't have time to spend an extra 5 minutes with everybody in their day. But she did. She spent an extra 5 minutes with him because she could see he was lonely. He had no visitors. And she was talking to him about his life, and he mentioned that he loved fishing. He had loved fishing all his life. He was a keen angler, and he was telling her all his fishing stories. And she sat there and she listened and smiled. She went home that day, and the next day when she came back to work, she popped in to see him after his surgery, see how it went. And she brought him a fishing magazine from the shop. She bought it, and his face lit up like a child at Christmas. And when he completed his patient satisfaction survey leaving the hospital, he didn't talk about, the usual things most patients talk about, the food, the staff, blah, blah, blah. Nothing except this wonderful lady who made him feel seen, heard, valued. And as we get older, we tend to see, we become more invisible. Old people talk about the invisibility of being old a lot. And he just was made feel so special by this woman. And the question is, how can we ever have a good customer experience unless we have people who are passionate about customer experience? You have to have passionate people in your organization, because you will never deliver amazing customer experience unless you have amazing employee experience, unless the people who you have recruited, who you have trained, who you have inspired believe in connection. So that woman believes in connection. Now, the question is, how do we make the other 20,000 nurses in our hospitals do that? I'll tell you a second story about how you do that, but let me tell you the second story quickly, and then we'll finish up about how that happens. It's leadership. So the CEO of one of the biggest US hospital groups, I had breakfast with him recently, and he was talking about this challenge. And when he goes to visit one of his hospitals, he takes off his jacket and his tie, and he goes to the canteen, and he gets one of the plastic aprons that the dinner staff use, and he puts it on, and he delivers breakfast, lunch, and dinners to the beds for an hour. Because for two reasons. One, he's learned that the patient tells the dinner staff everything. They won't tell the doctors in case the doctor thinks bad about them. If they're having a problem, they won't say, oh, yes, doctor, yes, perfect, perfect. But they will tell, a bit like you tell your hairdresser all your secrets. You tell the dinner staff all your secrets. So he gets real life customer data. But the main reason he does it is because he knows his doctors and his nurses are overworked in healthcare. He knows they're tired, and he asks them every day to spend extra time with patients. And he knows it's hard. So when he goes and visits a hospital, he wants them to see the most senior person in the company. If the CEO has the time to take off his jacket and his tie and spend 5 minutes with hundreds of patients and deliver dinners and maybe even feed some of the patients if they need to, That then is how you inspire your staff. Because then the next memo they get or the next video they get from the CEO asking them to do it, they think, well, our CEO does it, so I can do it too. And so good customer intimacy, customer experience, connection, belonging, they all have to come from the leadership. If you are not part of an organization where your leader believes in those things and you do, then you need to leave that organization. You need to bring your talents elsewhere because you have a passion for connection that isn't being achieved where you're working. And if you are lucky enough to be in an organization where your leadership is passionate about customer experience and connection and belonging, then fantastic, because then you can have ideas and you can bring that to life and you can get budgets for it and you can get ideas for it and you can be supported in it. And that's when a beautiful brand is built. And that's how we end up with collective tribal brands.
I'm really going to, see to it that there is some Taylor, there is some swiftiness in my, playlist. So you did it, Ken.
Yeah, you see. Well, look, the book, let me get the book. The book, and I did this on purpose. So every chapter of the book has a playlist because I thought it's interesting because I structured the book around her albums. And so for the beginning of every chapter, here's the chapter on Fearless. And so the beginning of every chapter has a little Spotify QR code. Here it is. And you scan that and you have a little playlist to listen to while you read the book. And also, and your listeners can do that for free. This is a QR code in the book here, and this brings you to the Taylormaking website. So you can go onto the Taylormaking website right now if you're listening, and you can download 2 free chapters of the book anyway. But there's all the video content is there for you to watch. So if you want to get close, so often in the book I'm talking about a certain tribal belonging moment, like let's say that Vienna moment. I'm talking about the Vienna and the fact that it still went ahead without her. And then there's a little icon in the book that says go watch the video, and you go to the website, you watch the 40,000 people singing on the streets, and it brings you much closer to the reality than I can ever do in words. And so the whole book is a multimedia book where you read a little bit and then you should watch the videos, you listen to the music, and then there's some consultancy questions at the end of every chapter that asks you, whatever brand or business you have, how can you, as you just said, be more swifty in what you do? The point is, when you finish this book, you should have a whole customer connection strategy for 2026 ready. And that's tailor making. That's making your brand, whether it's globally successful or just locally successful in your community. It's about building your tribe, your belonging, your differentiation, challenging distribution models, finding your authentic voice, finding your intimacy, your vulnerability, learning how to surprise and delight your customers, going beyond their expectations, all the things that she's done. This is basically a playbook in terms of how you can do it too. And it's available on Amazon right now. Go get it. I need to put my kids through college. I need the money.
Come on.
Be worried.
This is rapid fire. Mother's best advice.
Never put your shoes by your bed in case you get sick into them after drinking too much. Crazy.
Original.
Original, definitely
Almost
original.
like a vivid image. Okay.
Yeah.
Alternate profession could have been.
Actor. I loved theater acting. I do it on stage now, obviously, as part of my job, but I would have loved to have been a theater actor.
What would you do on Mars for fun?
For fun. Oh my God. I don't know, dig a big hole in the sand. I don't know. It seems very sandy up there. Build a massive sandcastle that you can see from Earth. Yeah.
One thing no one knows about you.
I was briefly paralyzed 5 years ago for about 4 days after a horrendous accident. It took me 18 months to learn to walk again, shattering 26 bones in my body.
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy.
Okay. Rebirth. Okay.
Absolutely.
What's something new happening in your life right now?
My son has just left to go to university. So a new stage in life where letting go has to become something you learn because you nurture these children and then you have to just let them out of the nest and you have to watch them spread their wings and fly. And it's lovely. It's a really bittersweet thing. Yeah.
If you were to devote the rest of your life to philanthropy, what cause would you choose?
I have a foundation and we have difficulty with that. So we change the cause every year. So we've built schools in Africa. Last year was mental health. This year we actually are investing in a charity in Calcutta.
What's your greatest joy?
My greatest joy, I think, is watching my children laugh.
How would you like strangers to remember you?
A little bit crazy and weird.
I like it. What's a lesson that took you a long time to learn?
The difference between fear and the ability to listen to fear. So the accident happened because I didn't listen to my fear and I kept going with something. It's a very interesting line. Sometimes you need to listen to fear and overthrow it and do it anyway, and other times you need to listen to the fear and realize it's telling you something. That's a lesson that we're all learning every day.
Yeah, yeah, lovely. What is one missed opportunity you wish you could have a second chance at?
Oh, I did an audition for a play once years ago. I didn't get the part. Cillian Murphy got the part. He then became a extremely famous Hollywood actor and won an Oscar. Could have been me.
Okay, so if I request you to share your profile as a tweet, cheeky, slightly cheeky, if possible.
So it's Ken Hughes, the king of customer experience, which is what I was called once, which is lovely. Behavioral scientist, social science Frankenstein, I think, because I'm a little bit made up of everything. I'm a little anthropologist, sociologist, psychologist, cyber behavioralist, curious, creative, open-minded, and passionate about connection.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
And Swifty, huge Swifty.
So that's going to stay. Okay,
It's gonna stay.
interesting. Okay, if you please, could you share any online addresses, email?
Sure. So you can find all my work on kenhughes.com. And that has a blog section, and you can join my monthly subscription. And there's tens of thousands of people all over the world every month that read that, which is lovely. So it's all work on marketing, branding, customer connection. And then taylormaking.com is where you can find all the information on the book. You can download 2 free chapters, you can watch all the videos, and you can press the button to buy the book, which is the most important part. So yeah, kenhughes.com and taylormaking.com. Having just had the conversation I've had, one of the most enjoyable podcasts I've been on, simply because of the depth of the conversation. So many podcasts are just so surface level. This was authentic, intimate, and deep, which is the way I like my conversations. So make sure you like and subscribe. This is one of the good ones.
Yay!
Alrighty. No problem.
Wow.
All right, I got to go feed my children.
Thank you.
I got to go make dinner.
Thank you so much. What are you going to make though?
What am I going to make? I'll decide that when I open the fridge.
Okay.
I'm creative. I'll be fine. It'll look
Thank
after
you,
itself.
Ken. It's been a lovely experience.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
for finding
Lovely, lovely to meet
time.
you.
And when you write your next book, give me a shout. We'll meet
I
again.
will.